I'd like to welcome you to the second chapter of the book of Jonah. We are continuing from the last chapter where Jonah is in the belly of the sea monster, as we mentioned in Homer and other places. It wasn't really a whale until classification of the species happened many, many thousands of years later. And so it continues here in Ke prosivxato ionas pros kyrion ton theon avtu ek tis Kilius tu Kitus. And Jonah prayed to pros Kyrion, the Lord, his God, theon, theology being the derivative, ek, from the belly of the Kitus, of the whale. I had whale and could be make it into a sea monster. Verse 2, Ke ipen evoisa en Philipsi mu pros Kyrion ton theon mu Ke isi kuse mu ek Kilias adu kravgis mu ikusas phonis mu. And he said, I yelled in my affliction. Should be an in there, and it's missing, but it should be in there. I yelled in my affliction to pros Kyrion, the Lord, the pros being a prosthetic, something that's next to a body, a false limb. The Lord, my theon, God, theology, and he hearkened to me. From out of the belly of Hades was my cry. You heard my voice. Adu, Hades. We have a word on the word study on this word Hades. It's a very interesting word. It's number 86, as you can see, and there are related words that go along with it, and especially in this verse here, it talks about the depths, the Vathi, number 899. We have bathysphere, something to do with the round thing that went into the ocean. It goes down into the deep from Hades, and it goes down another place here and goes into the abyss. And those are related words to Hades. It kind of, when it talks about Hades in many places, it'll talk about the abyss and the depth. Also the lakos, a pit. And in the Hebrew, Tartarus, and it's also in the Greek, the infernal regions, number 5019.1. And lakos is 2978.1. And many people mention this place called Hades, Adu. Jacob mentions it, and they says, and they came to comfort him, and he did not want to be comforted, saying that I will go down to my son in mourning into Hades. Genesis 37:35. David said, cords of Hades encircle me, and shackles of death anticipated me. In 2 Samuel 22:6. Job mentions Hades. Jonah here has two interesting instances. One, the king of Babylon in Isaiah 14:9-11. It says, Hades from below is embittered meeting you. All the giants ruling the earth were risen up together against you, the ones rising from their thrones, all the kings of the nations. All shall answer and shall say to you, you also captured as even we, and are you reckoned among us? Your glory went down into Hades, your great gladness. Underneath you they shall make a bed of putrefaction, and the work shall be your covering. Then later in that same chapter 14 of Isaiah, talks about the fallen morning star. But now you shall go down into Hades, and into the foundations of the earth. The ones beholding you shall wonder over you, and shall say, is this the man provoking the earth, the one shaking kings, the one making the inhabitable world desolate, and demolished its cities? The ones in enslavement he did not loose? All the kings of the nations sleep in honor, every man in his house. But you shall be tossed in the mountains as dead, being abhorred, with many having died, being stabbed by a sword, going down into Hades. Offending priests uh, were in Isaiah were mentioned of having a covenant with Hades. Apostate Israel was abased into Hades. Pharaoh in Ezekiel mentions, thus says Adonai the Lord, in which day he went down into Hades. The abyss mourned him. For the sound of his downfall the nations shook when I brought him down unto Hades, with the ones going down into the pit. For also even they went down with him into Hades, with the one slain by the sword. Then it talks about Ezekiel 32:27, giants. And they sleep with the giants, having fallen from the eon, the ones who went down into Hades with weapons of warfare. And then Jesus mentions Hades. And you, Capernaum, the place raised up high into heaven, unto Hades you shall be brought down. For if in Sodom took place the works of power, the ones taking place in you, they would have remained until today. And that's in Matthew 11:23, and also similar in Luke 10:15. It talks about the way to Hades. Uh, Unless the Lord help me, my soul would shortly have sojourned in Hades. Psalms 94:17. It mentions bad counsel being a way to Hades. The wicked woman in Proverbs, the vile woman also, and the foolish woman in Proverbs 5:7 and 9. And then there is a way which seems to be straight by men, but the finalities of it come into the lower branch of Hades, Proverbs 14:12. And then some people talks about going alive into Hades. In Numbers, the earth swallowed up Korah, and they went down into Hades when they revolted against Moses and Yahweh. Psalms 55:15, it says, and let death come upon them, and let them go down into Hades alive. For wickedness is their sojourn, in their sojourn is in the midst of them. There is a turning aside from Hades. It says, the considerations of the discerning are ways of life. That turning aside from Hades, he should be delivered. There are those things when you see what Hades is going to be like, that will want a person to turn aside from Hades. It says that God is at hand at Hades. If I should ascend into heaven, you are there. If I should go down into Hades, you are at hand. Psalms 139:8. Talks about the soul, life, bones, and flesh being in Hades. If you go into that brochure, it'll list all these places. It's a place of the sinners. It says in Psalm 9:17, let the sinners be turned to Hades, even all the nations forgetting God. It's a place of the impious in Psalms 31:17, place of fools and mindless ones. And the attributes of Hades, a separation. It says in Psalm 6:5, for there is no remembering you in death, and in Hades, who shall make acknowledgement to you. Some type of separation from God. Pangs, it talks about, of Hades surrounded me. Snares of death anticipated me in Psalms 18:5. Some kind of pang, so it's not going to be a pleasant experience. It talks about the dangers of Hades. The pangs of death compassed me. The dangers of Hades found me in Psalm 116:3. Hades and destruction are not filled up. Likewise also the eyes of the insatiable man. Proverbs 27:20. And then there's things we don't even know about Hades. It says in Job 11:8, heaven is high, and what will you do? And deeper are the things in Hades. What do you know? Said Sophor the Manaean. The place of Hades, it talks about having gates. And do the gates of Hades open to you in fear? And did gatekeepers of Hades, in beholding you, become alarmed? God says in Job 38:17. And then Hezekiah says, I said in the height of my days, I shall go to the gates of Hades. I shall forsake the years remaining. Matthew 16:18. Jesus says, and I say unto you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my assembly, and the gates of Hades shall not strengthen against it. In Revelations 1:18, amen. I have the keys of death and Hades, alluding to a key of a gate. Then there is a lower Hades, For a fire burns away of my rage, and God says that it shall be burned into lower Hades in Deuteronomy 32:22. And for your mercy is great towards me, and you rescued my soul from out of lowermost Hades. Psalms 86:14. The conditions of Hades, it goes in a list of these conditions of destruction, no praising God in Hades. There's no knowledge, wisdom, no action or device that's going to help anybody. Hades is hard as Hades is jealousy. Her sparks are sparks of a fire of her flame. So there's talking about some kind of a flame there. And Hades widened its mouth and opened wide its mouth to not stop. And talks about leaving Hades. Man on his own says cannot leave Hades. In Job 7:9 he says, I am as a cloud being cleared away from the heaven. For if a man should go down into Hades, no longer in any way should he ascend. And then we have the story of Lazarus and the rich man crying out to Father Abraham. And it says in chapter 16 of Luke, and upon all these things between you and us and you is a great chasm firmly fixed, so that the ones wanting to pass over on this side to you are not able, nor the ones from there to us should pass through. But leaving Hades is possible for with Christ, because he says, except God shall ransom my soul from out of the hand of Hades whenever he should take me. So going to Hades is not something we have to choose. And that was Psalm 49:15. Psalm 30:3. O Lord, you led my soul from out of Hades. You delivered me from the ones going down into the pit. And Hosea 13:14. For the hand of Hades I shall rescue them. From death I will ransom them. Where is your punishment, O death? Where is your sting, O Hades? Which Paul quotes in 1 Corinthians 15:55, that verse of Hosea 13:14. But there will be an end to Hades. It says in Revelation 6:8, and I saw and behold a pale horse, and the one sitting upon it. His name was Death, and Hades followed after him. And then in Revelations 20:15, and the sea gave up the ones dead in her, and death and Hades gave up the ones of their dead, and they were judged each according to their works. And death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if any should not be found written in the book of life, he was cast into the lake of fire. So not a place you want to go, and the deep is where Jonah is right here, and from out of the belly of Hades was my cry. He would have been dead. And as Jesus rose from after 3 days, so did Jonah came out of the belly, and you heard my voice. The ecosas, we have an acoustics to hear, and phonies of phone, telephone, something to do with a voice. 2:3, it continues. Aperipsas me is vathi, cardias thalasis, ke potami ekiklosan me, pantas e meteoris me, su ke ta kimatasu epime thilthon. You threw me into the depths, the bathi, we had that before, of the heart. Cardias, the cardiac arrest, as a derivative. Of the sea, thalactic, has to do with the sea. And potami, we have the hippopotamus, has to do with a river horse, the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. It means river. Encircled me. Kiklo. We have this kiklo, ekiklosan. The kiklo has to do with a cycle. A cyclone is another derivative. The rivers, these things, things of the depths, encircled me. All of your crests and your waves went upon me. In verse 2:4 it continues. And I said, ego, the pronoun for ego being the I said, have I been thrust away from your eyes, ophthalmon? We have ophthalmology. Surely I shall proceed to look towards your holy temple, pros, agion. The hagiography is a biography of the saints, and the Hagia Sophia, the big church that's in Constantinople, is the holy wisdom. 2:5 it continues. Periachithi me, Eithor, eos psychis, avisos, there's the abyss, ekiklose me, eskati, ethi e kefali mu. Water, Eithor, hydraulics is derivative, was poured about me unto the soul, the psyche, the psychology. It has to do with the soul of a person. The deep, the avisos, the abyss, is the derivative. The abyss encircled me. Kiklo again. Should have had that yellow, but anyway, it's Kiklo encircled me. And then there's another one I missed, putting the yellow one. Escati, eschatology, doing that with the end time. The deep encircled me to the extreme, to the end. My head went down. And then verse 2:6 it continues. Is, get it up here a little bit. Is schismas oreon katevin is gin is e mokli aftis katohi ioni ke anavito ek phthoras e zoe mu kyrie o theos mu. Into the schismas, a schism, into the fissures of the Oreon, or being that have to do with mountain, orology, mountains. I went down into the fissures, into the earth, again, the geology being the derivative, into the earth of which its bars are the eternal Ionii hold, or aeonial holds, 166 at eon. And let my life ascend from corruption. This is what Jonah's praying, that he would let his life, zoe, we have a zoo, has to do with live animals, ascend from corruption. Talks about later, and that Jesus will not see corruption. Kyrie, o theos mu, that's his calling out to him. 2:7, ento eklipin apemu tim sikin mu tu kyriou eministhin ke elthi pros se e prosevki mu pros neon ton agion su. In the faltering of my soul, the psyche, the soul, the psyche, from me, I remembered the Lord, Kyriou, and may my prayer come pros se, to you, pros, to in your holy temple, agion, again the hagiography, Hagia Sophia, the agion, in your holy temple. So his prayer to the holy temple, and this is what God designed. One of the reasons he designed it is told that people, when they're in their problems, having problems in life, they're sent into other countries, that they look towards the temple of Jerusalem, and God will hear their prayer. So here, this Jonah is crying out to God, to the temple. And it continues in 8. Philasomeni matea ke psevdi eleon afton ekatelepon. The ones watching vanities and lies, psevdi, pseudo, something that's not real, it's something false. The ones watching vanities and falsehoods abandoned their eleon, mercy. We had the Kyrie eleison, the Kyria being the Lord, where we have that up above here, the Kyriou, and eleon, eleison is the mercy of the Lord. The Kyrie eleison, their mercy abandoned. But in verse 9 he says, ego they meta phonis ainesios ke exomologisios thiso si osa ivxamin apodoso si esoterian mu to kyrio. And continues, but I, ego, the ego, with a phones, the telephone, with a voice of praise. It's not worship, but praise. There's a big difference. Worship in the English word, whenever you hear it in the English, the Greek word behind it has to do with doing obeisance only, nothing to do with music or lifting up your hands, but doing obeisance. Praise is more of what the modern day worship is. And here but with the voice of praise and exomologisios, acknowledgement. I will sacrifice to you. So he's sacrificing with praise and acknowledgement, as much as we can always do. We don't have sacrificing animals anymore. We don't have a temple. We're not, and the temple's not built, at least in 2008. But we do have a sacrifice that the Lord will acknowledge, and that's the sacrifice of our voice in prayer and maybe in song. And he continues, as much as I vowed, we had vowing earlier, we have the word on the word vow. It talks all about the vows. You might want to look that up. And as much as I vowed, I will render to you. For my soteria, my deliverance is by Kyrio, the Lord. And it was assigned apo from Kyriou to the Kiti, the whale, or the sea monster, and it cast out Jonah, Yonan, upon Epi ting Xiran. Xiran being Xira, Xiros is some kind of a dryness. And so we see that in this second chapter is completely a prayer that Jonah gives out while he's in the belly of this being. And these prayers are interesting. There's prayers of Jacob and Deborah, Samuel, David, and it's interesting to see the prayers of people and how they some of these prayers have prophecies, prophetic words in them for the future. So here we're we've leaving Jonah. He's been cast out upon the dry land. The Lord assigned it to the whale, and so hopefully the Lord assigns us to the third chapter and then next time, and we will be seeing you then. God bless.